Welcome back to Pollock Labs. I'm Grumpy Uncle Rob. This is video number 2 in my series on fluxes. I'm reviewing fluxes from different sources, trying to figure out what's good, what's bad, what's ugly, everything in between. So what we have here today is the second group, or group B. These are items that I purchased exclusively from AliExpress. I have a couple mechanics here, a couple Lanruis, and then Relife Tool, YCS, and Amaoe. They came in varying degrees of readiness. Some of them have plungers, some of them don't. Some of them have needles, some of them don't. So, we're going to see what happens here. I've got my trusty little sheet here again to keep track of all of the individual little points. So once again, I've already checked on all the data sheets and the prices and everything. So let's just jump right in. For the price, every single one of them hit the mark. AliExpress is incredibly inexpensive, and that's not an exception where Flux is concerned. The most expensive Flux here, the Mechanic SD360 Max, $7 for, I believe this is 10 cc's. It doesn't say. But this is the one that tells me that it's tasteless. Take that with a grain of salt. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that information. It's a big tube. Comparing it to other tubes, it seems to be about the same volume. So I'm going to say it's 10 cc's. That was the most expensive, $7. The least expensive, the Mechanic UV223. It came in a 2-pack. It came with a 559, which will be reviewed in the next video with the Amtech knockoffs and reformulations and whatnot. $3.82 each. It was $7.65 total. If I'm looking at tubes that shipped alone, so we didn't get a discount for buying them together, cheapest is Tool, which came in at a whopping $5.42. All of these range from $3.82 to $7.02. They all hit the mark as far as price goes. For the data sheets, I found one. I found the SD360 Max, and it's in Spanish. Like, my phone will translate it for me, so not a big deal there. I gave it the point because it does exist. Two more. Relife has one, so it's an MSDS that has like 40 different item numbers on it. I don't believe that's for the HW11 is listed. I don't believe that material, and I don't believe that MSDS is good for all of those items. It is 180 pages. However, each listing, or the actual full listing, is 16 pages, and it's in multiple languages. Each section is a different language. I firmly believe that's not the right thing for that Flux, so I didn't give it the point. And then YCS, I found it on a website with a paywall, so I wasn't able to get to it. So I gave that no points as well. If it's not publicly available, it's not available. Everybody else, no dice. Let's get started. We'll jump right in, check everything out, see how everything goes. Looking forward to it. All right, so in this beautiful honesty, I am reusing the same board from yesterday. I just removed the components. It's a great thing when you're not worried about delaminating the board or frying a chip. You can just sit on it with hot air until the chip moves. I took both those packages off in like 2.5 minutes. It was fantastic. I can't untin the pads. I went over them with desoldering braid and got as much of the excess solder off as I could, but it's impossible for me to untin the pads. So we're not going to judge based on tinning. It's going to be more along the lines of, what works to get the solder up on the legs, and we'll see what happens. So we're going to start with the YCS Number One and see how that goes. All right, so this is the YCS Number One Flux. It came with no plunger, came with no needle. Right off the bat, the max you can get in ease of use is 0.5. Gave me nothing to work with here. I am going to use this needle for any and all of the fluxes that came without a needle. I will just clean it, and I'll use a needle to get all the excess flux out, and then I'll clean it with a Q-tip. I'll try to get it as clean as possible. I just want to make sure that I have the same extrusion size for each of these to try to be a little bit more consistent. Let's go ahead and dive down and see how easy this is to get out of the tube. It's a little thick, and that yellow bit is from the previous flux. So I will get that out of there with a Q-tip or a blade. Actually, it probably makes more sense to use a scalpel, because we found out yesterday trying to use the Q-tip for that is a little bit of a mess. Let's get rid of that. So I'm not doing super well on my first attempt at making sure the extrusion tip doesn't have any leftover residue in it. That's always fun. Okay, so we have a little bit of residue there, got most of the flux up. Alright, so as you can see, it came out kind of in a line there. To check the consistency of it. So the consistency seems to be pretty on par with a couple of the ones that we had yesterday, where it was almost like somewhere in between like honey and like, I don't know, thin toothpaste, I guess. As far as like the actual viscosity of it and whatnot, as far as the consistency of it, it is, like I said yesterday, with a different flux, it's almost as if it's not emulsified. It's like it's a suspension instead of an emulsification. So yeah, we do have like a thicker material here that is almost suspended in a lighter material. I'm wondering if that's just separation of the carrier fluid, which is usually like PEG or something like that, and the solvent, which is usually IPA. So it's possible that that's the cause of it. Let's go ahead and check the resistance. For ease of use, I'm not giving that any points. It wasn't especially difficult to get out of the tube. It also wasn't the easiest thing in the world, and not having the needle tip or the plunger is that's a big stab in the eye for me. So we've got our handy dandy multimeter, which you cannot see because of the angle. Let me see if I can get it in focus. Nope. How about now? There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and measure. Doesn't appear to be any resistance whatsoever. Touch the tips together, we get that 0.1 ohm. Other than that, we are getting a low reading. That's good. That's what we want. So far so good for YCS. It gets the points for resistance. 0 for ease of use, 2 points for resistance. Alright, so next we're going to go with fumes. Got my soldering iron here. It's jumping up to 350 and we are ready to test. Oh man, that's a lot of fumes, and that burnt immediately. Wow. Okay. And like I said, I'm only using 350 here, so that's pretty extreme. I gotta turn the fume extractor on because that's awful. Alright, so for fumes, I'm gonna give that 1. Actually, I'm gonna give that a 0. That is pretty awful. I'm gonna give it a 1. It put off a lot of fumes. I'm not gonna hold the burning against that particular measurement. I do have a feeling that's gonna affect the ability to clean it though, so we'll see what happens there. Let's go ahead and get down to soldering and cleaning. This is a pain in the neck. Guys, make these tubes a uniform size so I can fit my finger in here, or just give me a plunger. Shouldn't need any more out of this, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove the needle. Let's get this lined up best we can with all that damn flux in the room. So that looks pretty lined up. So we will grab the soldering iron. And just like I can't deten the pads, I can't really take the solder off of the legs of these chips. So what we're going to focus on, we're still going to look, I'm sure we'll still see some activity as far as it climbing the legs and stuff, but we're mostly going to be focused on how well it bridges the two connections. Go ahead and tin the tip. Let's see if we can get this put in place here without moving too much. Got a little bit of bridging there. I'm just going to drag across and see what happens. Should be able to just drag across it and kill this bridge, but it doesn't seem to be working that way. So we have good connection there, but it is not taking to not being reached. Let's try the other side. I'm not going to add more solder yet, although there isn't much on here. I just want to see if we can get a connection. We did. So even though these aren't perfectly aligned, it is still making a connection. We're still getting solder from the pad to the and vice versa. So I mean that's good, but getting rid of that bridge is somewhat of an issue. It shouldn't be. So the flux should be wetting this a little better, and that should be flowing better. And we did a bunch of these yesterday. I did a bunch of soldering yesterday, and did 5 out of the 8 had pins next to each other, and I didn't run into any issues with bridging. Kind of have to chalk this up to the flux. Like, is my technique perfect? No, but this is not a problem with yesterday. And the only different variable, other than the fact that these pins already had solder on them, is the flux. Alright, so for ease of use, actually, I'm sorry, for soldering, I'm going to give that out of 10. It connected the pins to the pads pretty well. It took a second, but it did work. And I'm gonna go over that left side again a little bit with just a little bit more solder. I don't know how well it's going to work, seeing as I burned up most of the flux there, but let's see. Let's just make sure that I'm being consistent here. Yeah, so I mean, it's making the connection pretty decently. That bridging issue where it won't come off, and I'm just adding more solder to it now. Let's try it one more time. Yeah, it does not want to come off of there. I'm not really sure why. I mean, I'm sure it not being perfectly aligned has a little bit to do with it, but not that much. So, out of 10, I'm going to give this a 5. It's the lowest soldering score that we've gotten so far, and we are just starting the AliExpress stuff. Alright, so let's try planing. I am not going to use a sponge just because we didn't yesterday, so I'm going to stick with chem wipes. That seemed to be the most consistent. Try to wipe some off without alcohol. I got really thick. I don't know if you can, yeah, without refocusing the camera. I'm not going to be able to show you that on that camera, but I can show you here. It's almost like earwax. It's a reference I made yesterday. So that Florida stuff smelled like earwax and looked like earwax. Let's see how cleaning goes with a little bit of ISO 99. I'm not seeing a whole lot of residue left. So I am going to go over it with the brush, just to be sure, but it looks pretty good to me. Let's put just a little bit more. There we go. Alright, so I mean we've got little pieces of fabric left behind by the chem wipe, but other than that, it looks pretty good. There's not any residue left over. So for cleaning, other than it being a little gelish, it cleaned pretty well. So I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. So total for YCS was 13. Still better than the worst one from yesterday. So next we're going to move on to the tool. This is the tool EcoFlux SC11, and it's a clear flux, but it is a little cloudy, and it's got a very unique tip. So it's a lure slip tip with an adapter on it that makes it a lure lock tip. Pretty cool. Never seen that before. Also, it comes with 2 tips that are the exact same size, and they look to be pretty much the exact same size as the spare that I've been using. So I will be setting one of those aside and using that between the 2 so that I don't have to clean every single round. There is a little bit of flux in the tip here that's like gelled up, so I'm gonna clear that real quick. This is one of those that kind of likes to dispense itself, it seems like, but it looks a lot clearer on the chem wipe than it does in the tube, so that's pretty cool. It looks like water almost, and you'll see what I'm talking about in just a minute here if I can get this tip on. So I have it on, but it's not locking in. So maybe the only thing that lure lock tip is for the cap that it came with, because it doesn't seem to be liking the tip, and removing the stopper from the cap does not make it all of a sudden accept that tip. So Yeah, I'm not sure what the hang up is there. I'm trying it both ways. I'm trying to twist it on there from the actual needle side, and then I'm trying to get it twisted on from the adapter side because the adapter is loose, but it does not want to attach. We're gonna hope that it stays on. So, okay, that came out really easily. So for ease of use, I'm going to go ahead and give it the full points, even though, well, it's still dispensing itself. Even though the tip situation is weird, it's not a normal tip situation, so I'm not going to really judge it for that. Anyway, this is, like I said, this is one of the clear fluxes, so it is, it looks like water, like it's super, super clear. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's just very clear. So let's check the consistency here. So yeah, this is just a nice gel consistency, almost like hair gel, or like the M35. Yeah, I think the clear fluxes are all going to be similar in consistency and texture and like viscosity and things like that. I think it's all going to depend. I think the biggest deciding factor is going to be solvent, how much solvent is used in their formula. I know I keep talking about constituent ingredients for flux. Part of that is because I've been doing a lot of research because I want to make my own flux. Seeing different things that make me feel certain ways about how I'm going to do that. So let's go ahead and check for fumes. Okay, so that's putting off a fair bit of fumes there. It's not a ton, but it's enough to be uncomfortable, and it does not smell great. Doing my best to blow it away, but it's putting off enough fumes that my extractor is having trouble sucking them all up, which is weird. My extractor isn't the best in the world, but it usually works pretty well. And it did burn a little bit, but I did keep the heat on it for a while. That's to be expected. It didn't, at least not that I saw, didn't burn super fast. Yeah, so let's go ahead and see. For fumes, I'm gonna give that a 2. There's a lot of fumes, and it was pretty obnoxious. And I forgot to get resistance rating before, so let's put a little bit more of this on here. See, it is still oozing out. I wonder if that's a clear flux thing. I wonder if it's like a consistency issue or something, because this has a proper plunger on it. So when I apply negative pressure, it should pull back. Go ahead and test the resistance here. So the uncooked stuff, we're getting nothing on the multimeter. Touch the tips, we get that 0.1 ohm. Now for the cooked stuff, I'm not getting anything here either. It did kind of return to a gel-like state. The actual material itself is giving off no resistance. So that's good. That gets the points for resistance. No resistance in both the cooked and raw state, since we're referring to the heated version as cooked. All right, so now we have soldering and cleaning. I'm going to use the sponge. I know I said I wouldn't, but I'm not actually cleaning. I'm just moving some flux away from those paths. I want stuff that's not activated on those paths. It's not going to be perfect, but that's about the best we can do. Let's go ahead and tin those pads and see what we got. I know I'm doing this in a different order than what I did yesterday. This particular chip, I mean. Don't read too much into that. I just forgot what order I did them in yesterday, so. Okay, it's not perfect, but it is at least adhered, so it will stop moving. We have high activation on this, which we saw before when we were testing the fumes. Got rid of one bridge just to create another one. Another issue with bridging. Once again, I don't know if this is my technique, the alignment of the chip. Okay, there we go. Just a little bit of a technique issue on my part. So I'm going to add a little bit more solder. Much solder, but the bridging is improved and the chip is attached somewhere to get stopped from moving. So that's a little bit better across the board. It's not perfect, but once again, my alignment isn't perfect, so that's going to have a lot to do with it. For soldering, I'm going to give that one 7. It performed better than the previous one, and the bridging wasn't as bad. but was able to get that up pretty quickly. So I'll be right back for the cleaning. Okay, so now it's time to check out the cleaning of this. And this has set a little bit longer than some of the other stuff did. So maybe it might be a little more solidified. We'll find out one way or the other. Yeah, it's a little bit of a jelly situation. So let's see what we can do to clean that residue off the board. Get the non-cooked stuff too, which came up a lot easier. So it's not just the fact that it's being cooled back to room temperature. It's also got something to do with the heat, and it is burning it. You can see here it's brown right around the pens, even with it being a purple board and having weird contrast. You can still see that. So let's go ahead and get this chip cleaned. We're going to just jump straight to the brush. And like I said, we're going to clean the whole chip just to be sure we're not leaving it behind any residue. Alright, so that stuff is not coming up. What is going on there? Oh wow. Okay, so we're going to move on to the stronger brush. First, let me just make sure that this isn't like just like discoloration on the board. No, that's legit. That's product. So wow. Okay, so when that burns, it becomes crusty. So let's put a little bit of alcohol on there. No. Okay. So that is concerning because that is not light at all. Actually, let's grab the other scalpel because it's a little more pointed, less rounded. So let's see if this comes off with the scalpel. Okay, so with the scalpel, it is coming off. So I'm thinking when I go to remove this chip with the hot air, it's going to remelt this stuff. In fact, I will confirm that by grabbing the soldering iron and seeing if it melts that piece that's still there. Okay, so it did. It remelted that, so that's good, I guess. So that means the hot air should take care of it. Wow. Okay, that is still there, even after heat. I may not be able to reuse this board tomorrow. That's not bueno. Boards are a little expensive. With tariffs, they come out to around $20 a board. So I was really not wanting to have to use another one of these. For cleaning, I'm giving this a 0. Leaving that scab behind, basically, like that's unacceptable. That's just, I don't even know what to say to that. I expected better from Tool. Might need to use another QFP package tomorrow too. So may not even need to remove it from the board. I'm still going to try just to see if I can get that residue up. So for cleaning it got a 0. The total is also a 13. I feel like it performed poorly compared to the YCS though. So yeah, I'm not super happy with the tool. I thought it was going to perform considerably better than that considering Tool's reputation. So now we have the Mechanic UV223. This is another one that came with extra needle tips that are the same size, and they're the same size as the extras that I have from the others. So I may not need to reuse that needle tip again, the one that I had to clean for the first one. So that's pretty cool. It's a little bit thicker. It is a little bit more difficult to get out of the tube. The plunger just kind of hangs there. It doesn't fall out on its own, but if you shake it a little bit, it does. I'm going to give that a half a point for ease of use just because it is a good wide bore. It's the exact same bore as what the other ones have been using, and it was more difficult to push out of the tube. So I feel like the formula could use a little bit more solvent just to make it a little bit thinner. Just a little bit. Set this over here so you can see it on camera. Alright, and we are getting 0 resistance. Low. Yeah, that's good. Get the points for resistance. Obviously, we'll check again after we check the fumes, but so far, so good. So let's check the fumes. Iron is back up to 350. Okay, so that is a fair bit of fumes. And I can't tell if that burnt already or if that's just a little bit of discoloration. That's quite a lot of fumes. I forgot to turn the fume extractor back on. I don't see any brown chunks in there yet. I'm seeing a little bit of particulate in there. So I guess that is burning. All right, so let's check the resistance on it. Now that we've cooked it. Yep, still nothing. I don't think any of these have changed after heat has been applied. And I don't remember, honestly, because this is flux number 11 out of 22, so can't honestly be sure. As far as fumes go, I'm giving that a 1. That was a lot of fumes. Resistance, it gets the points, so now let's check soldering and cleaning. Let's add that. And then let's get these pins soldered in. A little bit more time on each pin, just because, like I said, these aren't perfectly aligned. I want to make sure I'm getting good connections here. We do have a little bit of bridging here, but it looks like we're able to take care of that. There we go. That was easy to be bridged, but it still worked. And there's a really good connection on all of those pins. So that looks really good, actually. Not that I'm surprised. Mechanic makes a good product. But I took to it like a duck to water. So for soldering, I'm going to give that an 8. Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8 just because of the bridging. It didn't come up as easily as maybe some of the other ones. And now for cleaning, let's try it without alcohol. Put it with a little alcohol. And get the brush out. We do still have a little bit of residue there, so I'm just going to put the wipe on my finger, see if we can get it up. It seems to be just smearing, so I'm going to add a little bit more alcohol. Okay, so it did come up. It just needed a little bit of coaxing. So for cleaning, out of 5, I'm going to give that one a 3. It did need a little coaxing to get the rest of that residue up. Otherwise, it cleaned pretty well. So a 3 there. So that gives us a total of 15.5. And that is the leader for this group so far. Not that it has a whole lot of competition, honestly. Those first 2 were pretty bad. All right, upwards and onwards. Here we have the Mechanic SD360 Max. This one's a little bit unique. It does not have a plunger. It has like a thumb thing. I'm sure that'll work fine for the first, I don't know, cc and a half. Beyond that, I think it's going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but I guess we'll see. And it's got a big air bubble in it, and it seems to move pretty freely, so I'm assuming that this is going to be well, not really freely, but it does move. I'm assuming this is going to be a thin flux. So I'll take that top cap off, and just like the M35, it comes with 2 caps. That's the tip. Got a bulb on the tip. So okay, let's check out ease of use. Let's see how it dispenses. Oh, okay, so the way that this is going to work is this is pneumatic. It's not going to be like continue pushing it in like a plunger. I don't know if it's tap to get the stuff to come out or if it's hold. Oh, it's hold. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, that comes out super easy. I have to say I love that dispensing method. That is pretty cool. That is really cool. This is the most expensive one. I think that may be the reason why. Built-in tip, so no need for swapping that out. It's not a lure lock or anything like that. It's their own custom stuff. That's pretty neat too. Check the resistance. 0, low. That's how we like it. And then we'll check it again after we cook it. You guys are ready? I am. Let's check these fumes. It's actually not too bad on the fumes. Not great, but it's not bad. Could have been a lot worse. It's activating pretty well. You see all those bubbles. And the heat's been on it for a few seconds now, and it's not burning. At all, it looks like. That is pretty crazy. I'm going to leave the heat in one spot and see if I can burn it. not sure if that was a residue from from the last flux. I thought I cleaned the tip pretty well, but it's not, we're going right back to not burning, so I don't think that's from this flux. Like we have, well, maybe. We do have a little bit of browning there, so it may be burning a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it is burning a little bit. But that holds up surprisingly well. Pretty stoked about that. I like it when stuff doesn't burn, because it's easier to clean that way. Alright, checking the resistance of the cook stuff. And everything seems to be kosher. Alright, so for fumes, I am going to give... Okay, so first of all, for ease of use, that's a 1. They get the point for that. That was pretty cool. I like the pneumatic tube thing. For fumes, I'm going to give that a 3. As far as the resistance, it's got that. So now it's time for cleaning and soldering. That is super easy to control as far as dispensing volume. And it doesn't like run away with itself. Like some of the other mechanic stuff is hard to keep it in the tube. Specifically the M35. Okay, so grabbing the soldering iron, put a little bit of solder on the tip. I have a pin there that's still not tinned. It hasn't taken the solder from the new stuff. That's kind of odd, and it doesn't look like any of these are really doing what they're supposed to be doing. So let me try again here. Maybe I just didn't put enough solder on it the first time. So that pin that wasn't tinned is now. Let's see if I can clean up this bridging easily. Oh yeah, that wasn't bad at all. The alignment is off, so that's going to affect this a little bit, but we are getting decent connection, it looks like. It didn't want to do it to begin with, but I think that may have been a solder issue, not a flux issue. For soldering, I'm going to give it an 8. Go ahead and check out cleaning. So this is no alcohol, cooked flux. It does come out a little bit like snot, and there is residue on the board. And you can see why I burned the flux before. It's a little discolored. Let's go ahead and hit it with some alcohol and a brush and see how that turns out. That went pretty well. There's a little bit of residue between the pins, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get that up. Residue on the board is gone. Residue on the pins is minimal. Overall, I'm happy with the cleaning on that. I'm going to give that a 4. 20 points. That puts this in line with the NG Chemical from yesterday. So that's super cool. I really like mechanic products, and that turned out pretty well. I'm a huge fan of this tube. Like, I thought it was goofy looking to begin with, and I thought that this was going to be a pain in the neck. The dispensing of this is pretty cool, and it's very easy to control. I'm very happy with this. I really like this. This is something I'm going to probably buy in the future. This may replace the M35 for me. It scored higher than the M35 across the board. I like it a lot. I think it's good. I'm going to give that a spin, and you're going to see this in a couple videos soon, because I really like this stuff. So next up is the Relife HW11, and I think this is a pretty blatant, now somebody correct me if I'm wrong and tell me if this came first. I think this is a pretty blatant ripoff of M35. Same plunger style, same cap, same plug, it looks like. Yep, same plug. It comes with the same plastic outer cap and the plastic blue inner cap that this comes with. The tubes are exactly the same. The only difference is the labeling is different, obviously, and it's cloudy instead of clear. So not sure what to expect from this. It did come with 3 needles, so we are going to use, and it's lure slip instead of lure lock. It did come with the 3 needle tips, so we're going to grab the one that's closest to what we've been using all along. Slap that on there. Best fit, and let's check ease of use. Okay, like I said, it's not as clear as M35, And it appears to be a little bit thicker because it's not auto-dispensing itself like the M35 does. It's actually holding back. I'm not having to pull back on the plunger at all or anything like that. I will give it the edge over the M35 on that front. We are getting 0 ohms. That's good. So we'll check it again after it's cooked. Okay, so for ease of use, we're going to go ahead and give that a 1. Worked out pretty well. For resistance, I'm going to go ahead and provisionally give it the 2 points. All right, let's check the fumes. Oh, let's wait for the iron to get up to temp. There we go. It's not horrible, but it's not great either. The fumes are kind of middle of the pack here. But similar to the SD360, this stuff doesn't look like it's burning all that easily. Oh, you know what? I could be wrong. I am seeing a little bit of discoloration there. But that could be from where the previous stuff etched the board. Remember, we did have an issue with that. We are getting some particles there, so we are getting burnt. And when I burn it, or when I rest the iron there, it's actually going all the way to the board and drying it up. I've not seen that behavior before. I don't know what that's all about. But as you can see, this is like the consistency of frosting almost. It's formed like a little skin or shell over the top. Just figured I should share that with you. I don't want to use old flux on those pads. That's been sitting there for a while. I know it probably doesn't make a lick of difference, but I want to be sure that I'm doing the same process on all of these. Let's put some flux on here. And we're going to come at this from the left. Got no bridging, but we also have very much in the way of connection between the pins and the legs. Maybe that's just I didn't spend enough time on there, because once I go back and touch them up, they are doing pretty well. So that's good. Let's just drag a little bit just to make sure. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. It's not too bad. For soldering, I'm going to give that a 9. That's pretty good. No complaints there. No bridging. Needed a little bit of extra time to get the solder from the pin to the leg, but once again, I aligned this chip very poorly. Just check out the cleaning. Now, we did clean a little bit already. However, I do want to give it its due to actually be judged, because I wasn't really interested in how it was going the first time. I was just trying to get it cleaned up. We do have some residue there where it burned, so I'm gonna put the alcohol directly on the chem wipe, and then we're gonna go at it like so, and it mostly comes up. Might need a little bit more elbow grease right there. Alright, so that all came up. So overall, it wasn't difficult to clean. It wasn't as smooth as some of the other ones, but it also wasn't hard. For cleaning, I'm going to give that a 3. I'm going to put it firmly in the middle of the pack there. So a total, 20. So this one stacks up with the SD360. Cool, they traded off on fumes and cleaning. Got 1 point higher for soldering, but lost a point for the MSDS. So next we have the Amaoe M53. I'm going to put this under the microscope for a second just so you can see it. Let me see if I can get it in focus. There are like snowflakes almost throughout this flux. So, and it says right on the bottle, the paste is crystal clear and has good fluidity. Well, this paste is not crystal clear, so I'm wondering if there's something wrong with it. There really is no batch date. I don't know if it's like super old. It says version 2.0, but I really don't have any idea as to how old this is. It also did not come with a plunger. It does come with 2 needle tips, One is slightly bigger than the other. However, it is not as big as the other ones that we've been using. And let's check out how easy this is to dispense. Oh wow, that comes out super easy. Yeah, that was no problem at all. Nice. All right, so first thing we want to check is the consistency and texture, fluidity, all that good stuff. So, look like hair gel, I guess you would say. It's not quite as smooth as, say, the M35 or the SD360. I wouldn't call it chunky either. It's not too bad. I know this is not something that I graded on, but I do like to check it and tell people. Resistance. We've got no resistance. So far, the AliExpress fluxes have done better than the Amazon fluxes in the resistance department. So let's check the fumes. That's quite a bit of fumes, actually. Oh, need to turn the extractor back on. Not a good smell. That's quite a bit of fumes, actually. This stuff activated pretty quickly, but it's also burning away. I don't have any measurement for that, like nowhere for me to write that down, but this is the first flux I've seen do that. For the fumes, I'm going to give it a 2. It's not the worst, but it's pretty bad. Right now it's on to soldering and cleaning. So, I don't know if you can see this, there is a pearl of flux on the tip, and I was done dispensing, so don't love that. Might need to adjust the ease of use, and because this stuff burns away so easy, I'm going to put a little bit more on there, even though I seem to have covered everything. I don't want to burn away the flux and have to reapply. Okay. Alright, I think we're good there. Okay. That seems to have gone okay. Just wanted to double check. I'm going to try this again. There we go. Okay, so we do have connection to the cloud. So not bad in the soldering department. Once again, I don't have pins next to each other to check it out, or as far as drag soldering goes, so I'm going to give it a 7. It did a pretty good job, but also I didn't get to judge it on drag soldering, and while that's not the fault of the flux, I do need to try to be as consistent as possible. Let's check cleaning. Just a little bit more alcohol, and one more pass with the brush. So it's coming up with my nail and the white, but it is taking some doing to get it done. So I would say this stuff is pretty caked on, so we'll loosen it up a little bit with rubbing alcohol. Give it a second to kind of disseminate. Not too shabby. That discoloration is there from yesterday, so it's not too bad. But some of it is, actually, because I did go a little bit further down with it today. So some of that discoloration is from today. For cleaning, I'm going to give that a 3. Wasn't horrible, but there was some residue left behind. It was a little bit of a pain in the neck to get out. So give it a 16 on the Amaoe. Alright, next up is the Lanrui Number One. This has the same weird lure slip / lure lock tip situation going on that the Relife did. That's a little odd. Comes with 2 tips. They appear to be the exact same. They are a little bit smaller than the rest of them that we've been using. However, the lure lock went on a lot easier on that one, right? Let me not speak too soon. No, like it's on there. Okay, so let's check out ease of use. And it is still coming. I'm going to try to give some negative pressure. So right out the gate, the consistency is not great. It looks like watery boogers, honestly. There was some liquid at the beginning that I didn't really see further in. Maybe it's just there at the beginning, But let's kind of mess with this a little bit, see what our consistency is like. Maybe mix that up with the liquid and see if we can get it to be more cohesive. That's not much better. So don't love that. Unfortunately, that is not something we judge on. So ease of use, I'm going to give it 0.5. It wasn't the easiest thing to push out, but it also uses a smaller needle tip, so I can't fully take that point away from you. Let's check out the fumes. It's not great, but it's not horrible. Maybe not great, not horrible, but that's not the compliment that you think it is. It burned fairly fast. Not instantly, but it did burn pretty quickly, and it gave off a lot of fumes. And it got up onto these pads though, so I'm gonna go ahead and clean it. Oh, actually, you know what? I forgot to check the resistance before I cooked it, but let's check the resistance now, and then we'll check it again when I reapply, just to make sure we get it. No resistance. Go ahead and wipe this up. Came up pretty easily. It looks, coming up, it looks the same as it did going down, honestly. I'm going to use just a little bit of rubbing alcohol just to get that pad clean. Not that it matters because we're about to put the same stuff on the pad. It's still doing its own thing, so yeah, I'm gonna have to kill that ease of use down to a 0 because it's doing the same thing the last stuff did. I can't control the flux. Makes it difficult for me to recommend in that category. Alright, before it's cooked, I'm gonna try to touch just the top. I don't want to touch the pads because I think the resistance will be different. And there doesn't seem to be any resistance there. I will check the pads though just to make sure. Yeah, there's nothing on the pads either. Okay, good. I didn't think there would be because they're not connected. Like there's no ground plane underneath that, and if it's going to skew my results, I need to know. Trying to check. Let's see. We did fumes. For fumes, I'm going to give it a 2. Resistance, it gets a 2. Now it's time for soldering and cleaning. Alright, so I lost one of my resistors, and rather than going digging for another one, I'm just going to use this one twice. I'm just going to use the same resistor twice. I'll put it on there and then take it back off. Once again, I'm horrible at surface mount stuff, so I apologize in advance for the grotesqueness of my soldering. It's definitely something I could use more practice in, which I will get over time from testing all these fluxes and during the soldering random reviews. Okay, I need to add a little bit more solder. It seems to be better. Okay, so it soldered okay. Not super great, but not horrible. I'm gonna give that a 6 in the solder department. Let's clean it up. Where's my brush? There it is. Cleaning up pretty easily. Not leaving a whole lot of residue behind, a little bit right there next to the resistor, but not too bad. So for cleaning, I'm going to give that a 4, and so overall, that's a 15. Great, but not horrible. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove that resistor. Next up, and final product, is the Lanrui Number Two. This one looks a little bit clearer, the other one was a little bit more opaque and yellow. This one still has a yellowish tint to it, but it's more clear. So it came with 2 needles. It has that same lure slip, lure lock tip. So let's give it a spin here. Let's see how it dispenses. I'm going to use the same pads as before. Actually, no, I'm not, because it's got stuff all over it. So, and I don't feel like taking the time to clean it again, considering I'm going to have to clean it in a few minutes anyway when I'm done with this. So, let's go over here. Okay. That's not too bad. See if it continues dispensing on its own. It seems to be okay thus far. So, I'm just going to light the tip just in case. It is pretty easy to dispense, so I'll give it the ease of use. It's more of one of those clear fluxes that has a similar consistency. It looks like water almost, but it does have that consistency of almost not like hair gel, because the hair gel is a little bit thicker, but not really sure what they compare that to. Maybe like fake pancake syrup, like the stuff you buy at the store that's made with corn syrup instead of maple syrup. I don't know. All right, let's give it a fume test. So it burned pretty quickly, it looks like. Oh no, that may just be discoloration from previous test. Yeah, that's what that is. We do have a few little specks here and there, but not enough to say that it's definitely burning. But this is pulling the same thing that Amaoe did. It's burning and it's evaporating. It's not doing it as much as the Amaoe did, but it is doing that. But as far as fumes go, I'm going to give it a fun 3. It wasn't super great, but it wasn't horrible either. Ease of use 1, fumes 3. Check the resistance. I have not had a single one change resistance. In 2 days, I have not had a single one change resistance when cooked. So I'm not even going to worry about checking this again. That's fresh. We're just going to go ahead and give it the points. Now let's do some soldering. What was this going to wind up? So it's probably easier if I pick it up and drop it on. Yeah, that's a little bit. I should have just left it alone. It's fine. Once again, I suck at searching stuff. I think there's not much of it. Or switches are concerned. Except when you have charging problems. Okay, time for cleaning. So, for soldering, I'm going to give that an 8. Did a pretty good job. Get rid of that. It is leaving some residue behind. But it came up pretty easy. Alright, so I'm going to give it a 3 for cleaning. Give it an 8 for solder. I'll be right back with the results. So in third place, with a score of 18, we have the Lanrui Number Two, the last one that we tested. It did really well across the board. Fumes, it was middle of the pack. Cleaning, it was middle of the pack. But it did well everywhere else. Now, in first place, we have a tie. Both of these came in at 20 points. That is the SD360 Max from Mechanic. That's the one with the pneumatic button on the end that I really like. And then the Relife HW11. This is the one that I immediately assumed was a ripoff of the M35. It ended up working a lot better than the M35. And the Relife has a 9 in the soldering category. Cannot complain at all. Pretty happy with these results. This puts the SD360 Max from Mechanic and the Relife HW11 on the same score as the MG Chemical 8341. So if you like the MG Chemical, maybe one of these will work for you as well. Oh, they both have the same score. They're all 20s. Chipquick NC191 is still the winner over the past 2 days. So we have one more day. We have Amtech tomorrow, and I'll get that taken care of and get it edited and uploaded as soon as I can. Thank you for watching. I told you the winners. I forgot to show you the losers. So in last place, we had tied the YCS and the Tool. Those were the first 2 that I tested from this batch. So we were off to a pretty bad start initially. And then you have tied for second to last. You have the Amaoe M53 and the Lanrui One, both with 15 points. And then right smack dab in the middle, you've got the Mechanic UV223 with 15.5 points. So not much difference between those 3, but just enough to nudge it ahead. All in all, for the price, you can get some decent fluxes from AliExpress. I would say the top 3 are definitely worth the money, and they're relatively inexpensive. Even the SD360 Max at $7 a tube. That's inexpensive. It's a nice dispensing system, and it works really well. So you can't go wrong with $7. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching.